Hello and welcome to Almost 30 Podcast. My name is Krista Williams and I am almost 30 on the other side. The podcast was started by my best friend and I when we were almost 30 on our closet floors. We had full-time jobs. We were completely lost and had no idea what to do with our lives and decided to take those conversations on a podcast in 2016 when we launched the show. And eventually this turned into a brand and business that I absolutely love and adore. And I'm so thankful to be doing this for over 10 years with y'all. It's been a dream. We've been on tour. We had retreats. We had merch. We did membership, courses, programs. We've done it all. We released a book in June of this year, and it was one of my favorite things that I've ever done, one of the hardest things I've ever done, and one of the things I'm most absolutely proud of in my career. When everyone talked about doing a book, they were like, it's so hard. And I said, you guys don't work hard. But I do. And then I did a book and I said, I need help. This is so hard. You guys were right. So it was a very hard experience, but the Almost 30 book is a definitive guide to a life that you love, for this next decade and beyond. And you can get it wherever books are sold. We've had so many great reviews. It's just been such a dream. So if you feel lost in life, the book is a great spot. So in this journey of almost 30, I've talked a lot about my body journey. So this is something that I never really thought I would talk about or be able to talk about or express. I started sharing openly about my body journey at the beginning of the podcast. So around 10 years ago, when I was going through some health issues, my hormones were completely out of whack. I had been pushing myself to the limit living in New York City before I was in Los Angeles to be the thinnest version of me that I ever was. I was going to 2 SoulCycle classes a day, walking 10,000 plus steps, eating only Quest bars, just such a disordered relationship with food and my body. And when I moved to Los Angeles, my body completely rejected the old things that I was doing, the overfunctioning, burning myself out, HIIT workouts, energy drinks, caffeine, protein bar eating lifestyle. Got very sick and I put on a bunch of weight. And for someone, that's biggest fear is putting on weight. It was a very hard situation and circumstance for me because I had lived my entire life trying to be thinner than the thinnest version of myself. And when I was in New York City, I was the thinnest I had ever been. It was just a combination of all the working out, all the little eating I was doing, all the stimulants, and living in that city that had caused me to be the thinnest I'd ever been. And then at that weight, I knew I wanted to be thinner. And at that time, that's when I knew I had a problem. But to go then to Los Angeles and then put on all that weight because I had gotten sick was really hard for me. So I started to share openly on the podcast about my journey with my body and how much I had struggled. And in that process, opened up a lot about how I had been in this experience of hating and being at war with my body my whole life and spending so much energy on this fear of being fat and this desire to be thin and this desire to change my body and this belief that I was only as good as how much I weighed and I was only as good as how much I looked. In the book that we put out in June, I did a really powerful chapter, and I'll say that just with pride, on the body. I was out to lunch yesterday, actually, and the server goes, I don't mean to break character, but I'm reading your book now, and the body section has changed my life. And for me, someone who struggled so much with my body, to hear that from someone is just such a gift. And I shared a lot about that in the book of the struggle with the body journey and how so many of us really use so much of our energy, our creativity, our life force, and hold ourselves back because we feel like we don't look a certain way and because we feel like we're too fat, because we feel like we're not thin enough, all of these things. And so in my journey with my body, I was struggling so much at the beginning of our journey with the podcast and struggled almost until the end of my marriage in 2023. After that relationship ended, I completely radically committed to feeling my feelings. And in that commitment, I completely committed to a life of truth and honesty and integrity, that I was going to be fully expressed, that I was going to choose myself, that I was going to take care of myself, and that I was going to feel. And for someone that was using food as a method of not feeling, that was radically different. I was no longer using food to numb, to cope, to avoid, to hold back, to restrict, to not express. And that step and that commitment changed my relationship with food, which changed my relationship with my body, which got me on a journey of a complete body transformation from, 2023 to now. where now I feel more strong. I feel more fit. I feel more me. I feel beautiful. I feel sexy. I feel embodied and powerful. And just, I truly am living in a body that I love. And it doesn't mean that it's perfect every single day, but it's a body I'm proud of. And it's a body that I would have never dreamed I could be in. And the important thing about me saying that is that I was someone that my entire life I was never satisfied. I mentioned the story when I was in New York City and I was the thinnest I had ever been. And as soon as I got on the scale and saw that I had been the dream number, and my dream number was dictated by a magazine I had read where a Sports Illustrated model who was my height said how much she weighed. And so then my mind said, that's how much I should weigh, which is insane. And at that time I got on the scale and I was like, I need to be thinner than that. And I was never satisfied. But at this point in my life, whatever weight I am, I'm completely satisfied and at peace. And I never thought this would be my reality. And today what I want to talk about is something that I teach in the Metamorphosis Method. So the Metamorphosis Method was really derived from my butterfly season, from my coming out of cocoon of my divorce to reclaiming my sensuality, my pleasure, my empathic nature, my voice, my expression, to becoming this version of me, this glowed up version of me that I would have never dreamed was possible. I am more beautiful, radiant, confident, free myself than I have ever been. And I can say that with 100% confidence. There's no one that can say that I'm not completely different from that version. And in this method, I really take a psycho-spiritual approach to body transformation. And in addition to that, we also have a very tactical blood work. We do peptides. It's this really beautiful melding and method. But today's episode, I really wanted to focus on one of the pillars of the Metamorphosis Method for body transformation that I teach, which is about the mother wound and how it impacts the body. What is so interesting is that when I first started talking about my body and had so much pain and struggle with it, I talked a lot about my mom. And my mom and I have a great relationship now. I'm very grateful for her. We've struggled quite a bit in my lifetime. And if you've listened to the show, you know a lot about our journey and our process. And you know a lot about the pain that I've been through, and I'm sure pain that she's been through. But at this point in time, I have peace and I have reverence and we're in a great spot. But that does not mean that my mom did not impact me and my relationship to my body. So the mother wound and its impact on the body is great and deep. So the mother wound is really the inherited patterns, the pain and the conditioning we receive from our moms. So anything that our mother doesn't heal can oftentimes be passed along to us. So for many of us, this means that our mothers had these unhealthy relationships with our body, and that means we get a lot of that body conversation, that body drama, that body hate, that body disdain. Almost every woman that I know has firstly struggled with her body, and almost every woman I know who's struggled with her body would also say that her mother has struggled with her body. The things that I've heard my mom say about her body are just absolutely crazy. I don't know a different word. I'm trying to think of like a better word for that, but it's painful, it's bullying, it's cruel, it's hard. And so many of us have gotten this inherited message from our moms about our bodies that we're carrying today. So it's really not about blame. It's not about blaming the moms. This is the 2.0 version of you. That's not blaming mom. 1.0 version is like, mom sucks, mom did this to me. No, 2.0 doesn't blame. It's about understanding how this unresolved pain around our bodies and our power and our sensuality and our pleasure gets passed on. So how this mother wound connects to body issues and eating habits. Again, we go all into this in Metamorphosis, which is so incredible. First, with body image. So many mothers pass down this dissatisfaction with their own bodies to their children. I heard my mom say so many times, I need to lose weight. I can't eat that. I look fat. I am fat. All of these things. And from a young age, my entire life, I was hearing my mom say these cruel, sad things about herself and her body. Children absorb this as truth about how a woman's body should be. So whether my mom was fat or thin, I'm taking on this belief that my body needs to be thin, my body needs to look a certain way, that I can't be fat, that it's bad for her to look fat, that she needs to lose weight, that I need to lose weight. We're all fat. We as children are looking and mirroring our mothers. We do not have a prefrontal cortex developed to process things consciously. So I am taking in this pattern and this voice I need to be thin. I cannot be fat. I cannot eat that thing. I need to eat less. Being thin is good. I need to eat less. Being thin is good. So there's so much that is unconsciously passed down from our mothers and the dissatisfaction with their own bodies. I had an experience a few years ago, and I'm healed at this point, but where my mom came to visit, and we were, it was over a holiday, and we were going to a dinner, and she was just unwell, with how she was looking. She's like, I'm so fat. You guys are thin now. You got, just kind of going on and on about how she was fat and how she needed to lose weight and all of this stuff. And I was just really in this process of really seeing clearly how hard it had been, to be involved in the dialogue around your body and worth all the time. And how painful it is to only judge your value in life on your weight, and how there's no other really curiosity about what your soul came here to do because you're so focused on how much you need to weigh. And it was heartbreaking for me. I was like, dang, I have, as a little girl, just really absorbed this, lived in this, and experienced this unconscious judging and critiquing of the body, and a belief that my body needed to be a certain way to be loved, because my mom was not loving herself for the way her body was. So why would I love myself for the way my body is? I never saw the example of a woman loving their body as it was. Many of us have not. Please message or DM me if you had a mom that was amazing and body liberated and body loving. I would like to come over. The mother wound also connects to body issues and eating habits through food as control or comfort. I am having a spiritual experience saying this to you right now, because this is just so relevant and so true for me. I'm adjusting the microphone. I'm getting close. I'm leaning in. I am fully locked in for this because if you had love, nurturing, or emotional reassurance or presence as inconsistent, food may become a substitute for you, either to fill the emotional emptiness or as a way to self-regulate. So in the example of my unaligned marriage, I was using food to regulate and to fill my emotional emptiness and to hide the truth of how I felt and to stuff down my voice and my emotions. So when we are little and we do not have parents that are regulating with us from a nervous system level, we will find in a very smart way something to regulate. This can be various addictions. It can be disassociation. For me, I found food. Food is really beautiful because food releases happy hormones in our brain. Food also has a lot of chemicals that support us in regulation. And food is usually always there. There might be people listening where food wasn't consistent for them. They didn't have food all the time, and that's a different experience and story. And in my case, we had enough food at the house. And when my mom was inconsistent or not present or was not supporting me emotionally as someone that was very sensitive with big feelings, I would go to food to find comfort. I would go to food as my emotional support, as my safety net, as my substitute. And that pattern I had kept with me my entire life. So whenever I felt emotionally empty, whenever I felt unexpressed, whenever I felt I had to hide, whenever I felt I was not able to be myself, whenever I felt unregulated, I would go to food. And when I committed after my divorce to feel my feelings, to regulate myself, to fill the emotional emptiness with God, to regulate my emotions and not use food as my crutch, my whole relationship with food and body changed. So think about in your life where you're using food potentially as control or comfort. This is huge. And what happens is you need to not take it away from yourself immediately, because you need to find better ways and strategies and practices to be with yourself and what needs support than using food. So example, if you're someone that is using food to fill emotional emptiness, you feel unaligned in life, unaligned in relationships, you feel like you have no purpose. And when you get home from work, you like to eat tons of food and binge because it fills this void. Instead of just focusing on how you can stop eating after work, you need to find ways to support yourself in feeling emotionally full, in feeling connected and feeling alive, because then you'll no longer need the food to fill that emptiness. So it's a two-way street. We can't just remove the food because that's not going to support you. And in the program in Metamorphosis, we do a lot of internal family systems because that's a lot of this work here, because I'm talking about a part. A part is using this to soothe. And the true you doesn't need this to soothe. So looking at it that way, that if you're looking to change your pattern and relationship with food, you have to find better ways of regulating, better ways of finding comfort than using food, rather than just changing your relationship with food. The mother wound also connects to body issues and eating habits by attaching our approval and worth to our body. So if a mother linked love or approval to appearance, to performance, or being a good girl, food and body becomes tools to seek validation or safety. Oh my goodness, you guys. Oh, just come closer to me. This has been something for me that I've been struggling with, because when you have a family and a home that relates so much worth to appearance, you then relate love and acceptance to appearance. So then I go in the dating world and I'm like, if you have to think I'm so hot and so attractive to love me. And I need to be so hot and so attractive to be loved. And I kind of make this association to love, to being attractive, to love, to being beautiful or thin or all of these things. And so many of us have this belief that we are not worthy of love unless we are thin, that we are not worthy of love unless we are attractive, that we are not worthy of love unless we are a certain weight or size. Because many of us had mothers that linked love or approval to appearance. Oh, you look great today. Oh, did you lose weight? Oh, I love this outfit. You're so pretty. Aren't you gorgeous? Gosh, you're so stunning. Like all of that stuff that just trains our brain to think that we have to be beautiful to be accepted or loved, that we have to be thin to be loved. I had many situations in life where it's every time I see, my mom, it's a body clock in. It's like, what's going on with her body right now? Oh, you look this, you look that. This is da, da, da. Many of us have that, where we're attaching the idea of being thin to be loved. The mother wound also connects to body issues and eating habits with suppressed emotions. This is what I've been talking about as well as it relates to my journey. When I committed to feeling my feelings, my entire relationship to my body and food changed because I was using food to not feel. So many of us are doing so many things in life to avoid feeling. Oh my gosh, you guys. Oh, the journeys you will go on to avoid feeling a feeling. I had a conversation with a coaching client recently, and she has a freeze response because she's going through something. And this is a teaching at a high level. I'm not sharing anything, that's like hidden. She has a freeze response because she's going through something. And it's this entire freeze response just leads us on this journey of doing all of these disassociation practices and techniques. When if we just took 10 minutes to feel, we would not be on a journey of disassociating for days. So many of us are avoiding feeling. And if we just felt, we would move so much energy. We would be so much happier. We would be so much healthier. And we would even be in better relationship to our body. Many mothers weren't taught to process their own emotions. So we daughters learned to suppress ours. A lot of times we had mothers that were very emotional, that were very explosive, that were very all over the place. I lived in a pretty chaotic household with pretty explosive emotions and feelings and lots of drama and chaos. And so me thinking that was bad to be that way, learned to suppress my own feelings and emotions because there was no space for them. There was no space for me to have my own emotional experience or to be emotional. So I used food to numb. I used food to stuff it down. And I used food to also control. I'm like, I have so much I'm feeling. Okay, what can I control? Because I can't control how I feel. I'm going to use food to control. If you grew up in a household where the people weren't healthy with their emotions, they weren't expressing them, they weren't in right relationship with them, chances are you have an interesting dynamic with food and you might use food in ways that don't support you. So us suppressing our feelings, and I believe us suppressing our voice and our sensuality and our pleasure, which I talk a lot about in Metamorphosis, is also causing us to eat. I'm just going to drop this in the room. and we can do another podcast on this if you guys want. You also suppressing your desire for sensuality and pleasure, and you also suppressing your voice, your expression, is also often done through with food. If you know you have something to say to the world, you have something you want to bring through, you have medicine, you have an expression that wants to come through, so many of you will use food to dull and dampen your life and keep yourself from being fully expressed. So many of you who are not sexually satisfied, sexually liberated, in your sexual prime, in your sexual power, in your most sexual experience. And I'm not talking about having sex every day. I'm talking about being in the truth of your body and your attunement to your desires. If you are not in attunement to your desires in your body, you will use food to numb, you'll use food to control, and you'll probably use food to suppress the feelings of desire and of sensuality and pleasure that you really have. This is a whole journey. So we can go on that on another podcast if you want, but I wanted to just kind of bring that in the room there. So from the spiritual and energetic lens, the energy of the mother, the body is also our first home. The body is our home. The body is our vessel for divinity. It is our home. It is this beautiful sacred ground for our experience. Like, oh my God, thank you, body, for dragging me around this lifetime. And our mother is also our first mirror of safety, nourishment, and love. So any fracture here with the mom also imprints energetically on how we inhabit our own body. So the body is our first home, and our mother is our first mirror of safety, nourishment, and love. So our mother, if we had a unattuned relationship, she wasn't safe, we didn't feel loved. Sometimes, since she is considered our home, in a lot of ways, she was our home in the womb, we will then treat our body with the same energy. We will not attune to ourselves. We will not respect ourselves. We will, avoid ourselves. A lot of the ways in which our moms were with their own bodies, we will also take that on. A lot of the ways our moms were with ourselves, not safe, unattuned, not present, we will also do that to our own bodies. Our mothers were the first examples and the first people we saw in relationship to their bodies. Our mothers were also our actual source of nourishment. If you were breastfed, your mother was your first source of nourishment. So if you have an inconsistent attachment to her, you're going to have an inconsistent attachment to nourishment. So thinking about that can be helpful. How did you see your mom relating to her body and food? How did you grow up relating to your own body and food? There's also the feminine wound. I talk about this in Metamorphosis as well. When the feminine is devalued in society, mothers can unconsciously carry shame about their own bodies, cycles, and appetites. As an example, is it shameful or not to be on your period? Where I grew up, it was. Where I grew up, you hid it. Where I grew up, it was shameful. Where I grew up, you would not tell people about it. Where I grew up, you would be like, oh my God, I'm on my period. I'm on the rag. This is so bad. And you guys can feel however you want. You can free bleed. You can put it on your face. I'm not like screaming it to the rooftops, but I'm now in a complete situation with my body where I'm so excited when I get my cycle. I'm like, oh my God, I love you, body, for functioning. I love you, body, for bringing life. But so many of us carry shame about our cycles. So many of us carry shame about our own bodies, about our breasts, about our butts, about our whatever the parts are. As a woman that developed earlier, I had so much shame about that. Like people looking at me, people perceiving me, carried that for so long. And it made me feel like I wanted to hide in my body. There's also a lot of that experience too, where if you're someone that developed from a young age or got a lot of attention, you can feel shame about that attention. It can feel like you're doing something wrong. You can also feel shame about having an appetite. So often women feel shame about being hungry. You guys, being hungry. Craving nourishment from life, craving nourishment from food is a beautiful thing. You should have no shame about being hungry, but so many of us carry that. This feminine wound of wanting to be smaller, wanting to hide, feeling shame, feeling guilty about our expression, feeling shameful about our beauty, feeling shameful about our bodies, gets passed on until we choose to heal it. There's also the energy centers perspective. So, the root chakra is for energy and belonging. The root chakra is for safety and belonging. So if the mother was emotionally available, you may not feel fully safe in your body. You may use food to help you feel safe. If your sacral chakra was unaligned or is unaligned, which is for pleasure, nourishment, and femininity, you are going to use food, appetite. Your relationship to food, appetite, and sensuality are distorted when the feminine isn't celebrated. So a lot of people that want to be in the feminine more, that are wanting the more feminine experience, have issues with their sacral chakra and the issues with their sacral chakra that relate to pleasure, nourishment, and femininity, and are going to be what's experienced in food and body issues. So when the solar plexus, which is related to power and worth, is off or unaligned or, not attuned, you could also start to restrict and binge because it becomes a way to navigate your personal power. So I started to restrict and binge when I went through a power dynamic struggle with my mother when I was a teenager. I was going through my own little rebel phase and power dynamic struggle with my mom. And so as a way to regain my power and kind of hopefully balance and give myself more solar plexus energy, I started to binge and restrict. So oftentimes if you have a binging and restricting cycle, it can be because your solar plexus is off. And this is oftentimes with people that are very sensitive, it can happen. And also if you're someone that binges or restricts, I really love internal family systems for that. It's one of my favorites. So No Bad Parts is really powerful for binge and restrictors. It's kind of what transformed my life in that way because I was a binger. And we teach that in Metamorphosis as well. So how do we heal? This is just a little bit about, healing the mother wound aspects related to food. In Metamorphosis, we go into such more detail and you're working in groups and all of that, but I'm hopeful this will be helpful. So through reparenting is going to be incredibly helpful. So offering ourselves what our mother couldn't: attunement, safety, presence, care, unconditional love, nourishment, asking ourselves, what do I need right now? So for me, when I'm feeling emotional and stressed and overwhelmed, and the desire for me to attune and regulate for food, I'm going to say, baby, I know you're feeling stressed. What do you need right now? And I'm going to say, I need to cry and I need a nap. And I'm going to say, girl, I got you. I'm going to let you cry. I'm going to give you a nap. I'm going to come in as the inner mother and give myself all the love, all the attention, all the safety that I need. Before I eat or judge my body, I ask myself what I truly need. And I'm understanding and I'm hearing a lot of you speaking and thinking that this is annoying and this is hard. And I do believe that this is some of the hardest work. This is the reparenting work that sometimes if you don't have a somatic experience of, or you don't have a pillar example of, or you don't have a coach or someone you're working with or a therapist that's going to help you understand or feel or experience reparenting, I suggest doing that because it can help you have an anchor or reference point for it. But you can also, practice just asking yourself what you need right now. But I do highly recommend that for reparenting work, a coach or a therapist is going to be really helpful because then you can kind of have the experience somatically. You can walk through it and kind of get the feeling and then using it on your own in your own work. Also, energetic clearing can work. So whether you're meditating or in prayer or just really sending love to your mother and her line and noticing all of the pain that they were in can be really beautiful. You can do the Ho'oponopono prayer to love, honor, and accept yourself and every woman in their lineage for their path. You could recognize the pain that our mothers have been in and release the belief that you need to carry it or you need to take on the pain as a part of the lineage. No, you do not. You can be the one that lives in the experience of loving your body, of honoring your body, of being the fullest expression of you. And you can let go of the belief that you need to hold on to anything and be anything else other than the most expressed version of yourself to keep your mom safe and happy. From a soul perspective, your mom wants you to be the best version of you. And so you can let go of the belief that you need to hold yourself back or you need to relate to your body in the same way. Also using a shift in perception. So something that's been incredibly important for my body journey was finding purpose outside of what I looked like. I no longer felt like I needed to be beautiful as my purpose in life. I am here for so much more than what I look like, bro. Like I am here to be the fullest version of myself, to serve God, to serve others for goodness. And there's just so much that my soul came here to do that is outside of how I look. So when you can see that your body is a holy vessel for love and divinity, and that your soul chose to inhabit this home and this lifetime for purpose and for reason, and that you are worth so much more than how much you weigh, you will have a completely new experience with your body. When you shift from judgment into love of your body naturally transforms. In the method, we talk about how to do this because I know it's hard when you don't love your body, girl. Let me tell you, I know it's hard. But your body will transform when you love it, I promise you. You can also do the Neville Goddard lens of imagining yourself as radiant and free and at peace with your body. You can use subconscious reprogramming to support yourself. We do some of that in the work. And it's important to remember that your mother wound does not define you. It invites you into healing not only for yourself, but also for your mother and her lineage. By transforming the relationship you have with your body and food, you become the person who breaks the cycle, not only for yourself, but for generations to come. One of my favorite quotes from the great Jeanine Roth, who is such a powerful teacher in a book that we read in the program. She says, "It has never been true, not anywhere at any time, that the value of a soul, of a human spirit, is dependent on a number on a scale. We want to come home to ourselves." So coming home to ourselves is coming home to the body and coming home to the soul. I love this quote so much because it cuts through really cultural and familial conditioning that measures worth by weight, which is what so many of us have been taught. And spirituality reminds us that the soul's value is immeasurable. We are valued so much beyond what we look like. And the coming home to ourselves is really that shift in identity from outer validation, what so many of us seek, to the inner knowing that our worth is inherent and divine and unrelated to our physical form. I'm so thankful you were able to go on this journey with me. I know it's pretty deep and I know it can bring up a lot of stuff when we talk about the mother wound, when we talk about our body and food. So I'm so grateful that I can deep dive with y'all, that I can have a safe space to talk about my own body journey and vulnerability and the path that I've been on. There's a lot of episodes related to my body journey. If you search Almost 30 Embody, I have some really personal solo episodes about the practices that I've used to heal and sort of the struggles that I've been through in this process. Thankfully, in doing this 10 years, there's so much content that I've shared that sometimes I cringe at, but can be really supportive for you in this process. I would highly recommend sharing this with a friend, sharing this with a woman that you love that struggles, sharing this with someone that needs to hear these messages as we think about our bodies moving into our new lives, in our new existence, in our new reality. We want to be women that love our bodies and love who we are. If you're called, I highly suggest that you join the Metamorphosis program. This is my signature program. It is all about body transformation from a psycho-spiritual level. We have topics like the mother wound, energetics, sensuality, internal family systems. And then we also use really practical tools like peptides and blood work from doctors that support us in the program. And it's just been incredibly transformative for hundreds of you over the past year or so in transforming your body. On the Metamorphosis page, there's body transformations that people have gone through. There's like whole life transformation. So I'm inviting you to join the program happening in January to support you in your new year by doing the anti-diet, the anti-shortcut, and going deep with me to transform the relationship with your body by transforming your mind. I cannot wait. You can go to itskrista.com and check out Metamorphosis. It's under the courses and programs. So that's itskrista.com. That's itskrista.com. itskrista.com. And you can also find me on Instagram. I'm at itskrista. So it's itskrista. And thank you so much for joining Almost 30, a place that I know and love. I'm so grateful to have you. It means the absolute world that you've been with me on this journey the past 10 years, that you haven't rejected me at some point. Thank you so much. I mean, I love you guys. It's been the best. Almost 30 book is out now. Highly suggest getting it. There's a really beautiful chapter on the body that can support you in this process. And then Almost 30 podcast on Instagram and TikTok for more from the show. Okay, guys, I love you very deeply. I will see you on the next one. Thank you for being a part of my life in this community and for sharing with a friend. Bye-bye.